Good morning, everyone, and welcome. How's everyone doing today? It is such an exciting day to be here in the Bronx to celebrate our first round of Community Reinvestment Grant Awards, brought to you by the New York State Office of Cannabis Management. This morning, you'll be hearing remarks from New York State Office of Cannabis Management Acting Executive Director Felicia A.B. Reed, New York State Cannabis Advisory Board Chairman Joseph Bellick, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, and three leaders who are deeply committed to equity, community impact, and opportunity for all New Yorkers. So without further ado, I would like you to join me in welcoming Acting Executive Director Felicia A.B. Reed.
Good morning, everyone. It is so good to see all of you here in this beautiful room, in this beautiful time for this beautiful event. I'm so glad you, my fellow New Yorkers, are here, friends, communities, colleagues, and most important of all today, the Community Grant Reinvestment Fund awardees. Can I get an applaud for those folks? So in building to this moment, I have many folks to thank first. To the team at the Andrew Freedman Home, to the talented crew at OCM, shouts especially to Matt Wilson, and everyone who helped out in grant review. And to our partners on the Cannabis Advisory Board and Cannabis Control Board, thank you all so much for helping make real this incredible day. I want to acknowledge Assemblymember Chantel Jackson and Senator Gustavo Rivera, in whose districts we are standing, and Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson. Thank you for welcoming us to your community. And finally, to Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes and Senator Liz Krueger, thank you so much for your consistent support in everything that OCM does. Last but not least, I want to lift up Governor Kathy Hochul, the whole team at the Executive Chamber, and OCM's fellow state agencies. All of you contributed in so many important ways to the CGRF and to this day. Every day, you support the promise of OCM and the opportunity of New York cannabis. Governor Hochul's vision is of a New York that fights for families, and that includes the communities in our state harmed by the war on drugs and its many legacies. The roots of that war are deep and they are wide. Those roots grow under the foundations of our institutions. Their fibers are woven into the fabric of our lives. See, as a gardener, I know that the only way to get at terrible roots like those is to create conditions that are hostile to them. Those conditions require the intimacy of understanding, the diligence of intention, the perseverance of effort, and the commitment of resources. The MRTA creates those conditions. In its vision, the legislators of our state saw the opportunity to plant the seeds of real change, common sense change, and give ownership of New York's story about the war on drugs back to the people. The people will write the ending of this story, not the harms of the state. I gotta be honest, let's take a real moment and look at what we're doing today. It's truly remarkable, some would say impossible. So let me not fail to make it plain. 44 years ago, 1980, was the beginning of the war on drugs' impact period. My mom's family, Guyanese immigrants, lived just 5 miles north of here, off of East Gun Hill Road in the Bronx, the dead center of a community disproportionately affected by that war. Take a moment and just look around you. Everything you see, this magnificent place, was part of another such affected community. Both of these neighborhoods, from 1980 to only 4 years ago, the selling and buying of cannabis was conduct that New York used to destroy lives and rip the hearts out of our families. Today, that same conduct drives a $2 billion adult use industry, which is growing, has materialized 20 medical cannabis businesses, and made for 2,000 licensees across the cannabis supply chain. And now today, that conduct, the recognition that cannabis means healthcare, means self-determination, and means opportunity, also means $50,000, $100,000 grants to communities to provide critical services to the young people of our state. Yeah. Sometimes, the elegance of the MRTA leaves me absolutely speechless, but not for these purposes, obviously. The Community Grants Reinvestment Fund is one of the MRTA's most powerful promises. It's proof that atonement is more than theory or unfulfilled promises. It's policy into progress and progress into impact. I confess to you, in leading the OCM these last several months, there are many things that rattle around in my head each day. One is consistent. In 1964, on a college campus not so far from here, Dr. King used the moment to interpolate a quote. "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Today is a day of justice. To the 50 awardees, you are restoration made real. You are the momentum of a movement. I deeply know the youth and families who will be served by these awards. In a past life, their success was my day job, and their families were my family. Today is a day to celebrate. May these investments remind us that equity isn't a one-time act. It's a way of doing the work and making sure that it's shaped by the right hands. To the grant awardees, on behalf of Governor Hochul and everyone at OCM, congratulations. I cannot wait to see the work that you'll do. And now, it's my delight to introduce someone who has been a steadfast partner in ensuring that the promise of community and reinvestment stays alive, Chair of the Cannabis Control Board, Joseph Bellick. Sorry, Cannabis Advisory Board, Joseph Bellick.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Bellick, and I'm the chair of the State Cannabis Advisory Board. And I also want to start by thanking Governor Hochul for her leadership on this issue and her help in getting these community reinvestment grants across the finish line. I want to thank Cannabis Control Board Chair Jessica Garcia and the members of the Cannabis Control Board and my colleagues on the Cannabis Advisory Board. And in particular, and I'm not just saying this because her mother's here, I want to thank Felicia Reed for everything that she did. This has been a long march to get these grants to this point, and it's something that doesn't just happen without a lot of rolling up your sleeves and hard work. And it has a lot of components to it. It doesn't just happen unless you have enforcement that closes illegal stores and drives money into the legal cannabis market to generate this tax revenue. It doesn't just happen without hiring good people at OCM to do this work. It doesn't happen without a lot of political and communications and public relations work, and a lot of that is due to the credit of Felicia's work at OCM to get us to this point. So if I could have a round of applause for her. I also wanted to just acknowledge Matt Wilson, who's sitting in the front row. He's been spearheading this project at OCM. He's one of the fantastic hires there. And I said this in my remarks in Albany, but you know, there's a lot being said about public servants today. What I've seen at OCM and people like Matt are people who truly care about this work and getting this across the finish line and have ownership over it. And there's no replacement for that. And we should always keep that in mind, that within every government agency, you don't get things done unless you have people like Matt and his team doing that type of work. So if I could have a round of applause for Matt. So as Felicia said, this is part of the promise of the MRTA, which is to drive money from legal cannabis sales back into communities, including the Bronx, but also all over New York State. We are awarding grants today in Buffalo and Syracuse and the North Country and Albany and Long Island to projects that are going to serve youth and serve youth in communities that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And that's part of the promise of the MRTA, and today we're fulfilling that promise. And this program is only going to continue to grow year over year as we drive more dollars back into communities that are going to do good work to make sure that children and adults living in those communities benefit from the legal cannabis market in New York to undo some of the things that have happened in the past. So let me just give you a few items of information about what we're doing today, and then we'll continue on with our program. So today, the Cannabis Advisory Board, which is the board I chair and the board that under the MRTA is authorized to oversee the Community Reinvestment Grant Program, is awarding $5 million to 50 community-based organizations across New York. The grants are going to 501c3 organizations serving youth ages 0 to 24, and the grants are going to be $100,000 each, which will include an upfront payment and then some subsequent payments. As I said, the funds are going to communities across New York State. In New York, that funding is $1.5 million. In Buffalo, it's $500,000. In Rochester and Syracuse, it's approximately $400,000 each. And in other parts of the state, there are additional awards being made. I want to just take a second, and many of them are here, to recognize and congratulate our 50 awardees. We so appreciate that you applied. We know you're going to use the money well, and that the dollars that you get from this reinvestment fund are going to be exponential in their impact. In other words, we're not just giving you $100,000 as awardees. That $100,000 is going to be invested and multiplied by the work that you're doing. So if I could just have a round of applause for our 50 grant. And one of the great things about the awardees is if you go through the booklet that we have, there are really some innovative and interesting programs. You know, the idea of this was to give money to organizations that serve children and would have an impact in disproportionately impacted communities. But it's not one size fits all. In New York City, for example, there are a couple of organizations that do this through arts and theater. In Buffalo, there's organizations that do this through social programs. In Syracuse, there's organizations that are dedicated to fighting racism. So I am just so proud and happy of the work that was done to get not only 50 quality organizations, but a wide field of approaches to try to address some of the things that went wrong in the past. The advisory board is going to continue to advocate and fight for this program, to fight for as much funding as possible. Next year, we will have an additional $5 million to give out, and as the cannabis tax revenues grow, we expect that number to grow, and we will give out more and additional money. So what I want to say to everybody is, number one, to the public, if you're purchasing cannabis, purchase that cannabis legally. Go to one of our licensed dispensaries, because the only way we have money to give out to community organizations in your communities is if you go to those licensed dispensaries and make your purchases there. If you are not purchasing at a licensed legal dispensary, the money you're spending is not going to be put back into your community. So we need to get that message out. To all the organizations that applied this year and were not selected, keep applying. We will try to help you as much as we can, and we hopefully will have more money in the future to give out. To the organizations that were awarded money, thank you. Use the money well. People are going to be watching to make sure that you use this money well. We're going to be watching, but also the public is going to be watching. So use the money well. Lift up your communities with this. Again, I'm just so thankful to everybody at OCM for doing this, and thank you again.
Thank you, Chair Bellick, for your remarks. It's only fitting that we now hear from one of the Bronx's most steadfast champions, a leader who has consistently centered equity and investment in opportunities for all New Yorkers. Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson has been a driving force behind community initiatives that uplift our neighborhoods and ensure that reinvestment truly reaches its people that it was meant to serve. Please join me in welcoming Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson.
Wow. Okay. I'm a little short today. I didn't wear my heels. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Buenos dias a todos. Bienvenidos. Welcome. First, let me welcome you to this beautiful space that we call the Andrew Freedman Home. It is a beautiful space that is run by Mid-Bronx Senior Citizens Council, and we host a number of events here. We have art exhibits. It's such a beautiful space, and I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. So, of course, I want to acknowledge our Acting Executive Director of the Office of Cannabis Management, Ms. Felicia Reed. Thank you for your leadership. And shout out to your mom, who's here as well. We love when our moms support us in all this work. But we've had the opportunity to work with our acting executive director over the last several months on the MRTA and certainly the Community Reinvestment Funds and all of the awardees that we are recognizing. $5 million. Can I tell you at first, I thought the $5 million was just for the Bronx. Because I'm all about the Bronx, but I realize we have to share with all of our 62 counties across the state of New York. So I am so grateful for leaders that serve in the state legislature. As a former member of the People's House in the New York State Assembly, I know the value of what our state elected officials do every day. And so I do want to recognize Governor Kathy Hochul, our Assembly Speaker, Carl Hasty, our Assembly Majority Leader, a dear friend of mine who I proudly serve with, Crystal Peoples-Stokes from the city of Buffalo. And as well as our Senate Majority Leader, I was just with her yesterday here in the Bronx, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, all of my local elected officials that represent this district here in the Bronx, but generally everyone. This is something that we are absolutely so excited about. And so all of the awardees understand that while this wasn't a really real competitive process, but know that there were over 400 non-for-profits that applied for access to this Community Reinvestment Fund. And of that, 50 awardees from Brooklyn to the Bronx to Buffalo and all of the regions in between. And so we are excited about this opportunity because we believe in what the MRTA stands for and why the legislation was enacted in the first place. We believe in turning pain into purpose, and we believe in turning our storm into strength. And that is exactly what we are doing from an era that harshly treated communities of color in the way that it was done. And so I say thank you again to our Acting Executive Director, Felicia Reed, and the entire team at OCM, to all the staff, my dear friend Pascal Bernard, who I've known for years when we worked together in the New York City Council. Thank you so much, Pascal. She always tells me where I need to be, and so I'm so grateful to be here with you this morning. Of course, I want to recognize our Cannabis Advisory Board, chaired by Joe Bellick. Thank you, Joe, for your great work, for your leadership and your partnership. To all the members of the CAB as well as the Cannabis Control Board, we say thank you so much. To our awardees who are going to be recipients of this incredible opportunity, you are the first. You are the first awardees in a long process in which we look forward to administering $5 million across the state. So you are going to set the tone and you are going to set the standard. So I'm excited because many of these non-for-profits I know very well. And so I do want to take a moment to acknowledge Crystalie Romero Smith from Community Connections for Youth, CCFY doing great work across the city, but right here in the Bronx. I want to recognize a dear friend, Richard Izquierdo, who proudly represents NICA. I've been a part of NICA for years, doing work in housing advocacy, eviction prevention, and building permanent housing for our people in the Bronx. I want to acknowledge another dear friend, Mina Lora, proudly representing the People's Theater. So I know Mina works in Washington Heights, but we take credit for her in the Bronx. Northern Manhattan and the Bronx working together. And I know we have Dream Yard Drama Project. I want to recognize them as well. And I want to say thank you and congratulations. It absolutely means a lot when we show up for our young people in a real way. They are our stars that shine. They are the future leaders and they are the leaders of today and tomorrow. It is up to all of us to make sure that we invest in our young people and pour into them as someone poured into all of us. Our work is deeply rooted in public service, no matter what. And we are righting the wrong of a system that discriminated against young African American and Latino men and women for decades. And I need all of you to understand in this moment how important this work is, how important it is to say to young people, we have a job for you, a pathway to college and careers, apprenticeship opportunities. Many of the issues that we face today in our city and right here in the Bronx, the answer is jobs, programs, recreation, after school, wraparound services, healthcare, mental health, trauma-informed care. It is all of that and much more. We have to realize that our work is about taking care of young people and their families. Workforce development, stable housing. We need to build up our entrepreneurs in this borough. Do you know how talented our young people are? They are ambitious, bold, courageous, committed, driven, determined, exceptional, and fearless leaders. There is nothing that our young people cannot do. But you know what? They need opportunities. This funding will open up doors for our young people, and I am excited about that. For once, the Bronx has an opportunity to lead in everything good and not everything bad. Can you think about that moment, right? I tell our young people all the time that it doesn't matter where you live in the Bronx. Don't let your block block your blessing. And don't let your zip code deny your destiny. But know that you are talented, you are loved, you are valued, you are appreciated, and you are worthy. We want young people to be success stories, not statistics. That is what society does to our young people. Judges them, critiques them, doesn't give them a chance. But through this community reinvestment grant opportunity, we have a chance to pour into young people, to invest in young people, to believe in young people, and to give them the stages that they rightfully belong on. And I am excited about that, and I am so thankful that today's announcement is happening right here in the Bronx. The Bronx is a beautiful place, ladies and gentlemen, and we are working hard every day. My beautiful sister right here, Sister Shaniqua Charles, does a great event, has an organization called Miss Abby's Kids. We are all over this borough. I often say we are outside, Executive Director, we outside. Because you have to be outside for young people. You have to show up in spaces where young people are. You cannot assume or expect that they're going to reach out to us, because we have to meet them where they are. So my hope is with all of the organizations that are now grantees, $100,000 can go a long way. And for us in the Bronx, we know how to make $1 out of 15 cents. We will spend every dollar to the max, because we want to make sure that we lift up young people. As we climb, we lift, and we take young people by the hand and we lead them in the direction that we know they need to be. There is an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, with this incredible partnership as a result of the MRTA. And I am so proud that the Bronx will be able to now reinvest in the same communities that have been left behind, shortchanged, and ignored for far too long. Those days are over, ladies and gentlemen. We are not only standing up for young people, we are investing in them, we are encouraging and empowering them to be their authentic selves. And it doesn't matter where you live, the language you speak, none of that matters, because we see promise, potential, hope, and opportunities for a better tomorrow. So congratulations, and thank you, OCM. Thank you to Mr. Chair and our Executive Director, and let's continue to work on behalf of the Bronx and the great state of New York.
Thank you so much, Borough President Gibson, for your invigorating remarks. Now, please join me in having the pleasure of welcoming up the Director of Community Investment Grants, Matthew Wilson.
The Community Grants Reinvestment Fund exists for a clear purpose, and that purpose is stated in the law. Its purpose is, quote, to reinvest in communities disproportionately affected by past federal and state drug policies. This fund is a rare and precious creation of the law. It acknowledges those harms and builds a financial engine to sustain community reinvestment for years to come. See, New York must reckon with two painful histories in the space of drug policy. First, during the era of stop and frisk, New York became the cannabis arrest capital, with more than 1.3 million cannabis-related arrests between 1980 and 2021. And of those, over 75% involved Black and Hispanic New Yorkers. Second, in the early 1970s, New York produced the Rockefeller drug laws, which imposed harsh mandatory minimums that became a blueprint for punitive policies nationwide. The harms of these policies were most pronounced in and around New York City, but they were felt deeply across the state. In Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and many rural communities. As one nationwide study found, for example, in Onondaga County around Syracuse, they admitted 99 Black people to prison for drug offenses for every one white person. This was one of the most extreme disparities in the country. In light of this history, the MRTA created a mechanism of justice. Revenue from legal cannabis to underwrite reinvestment in communities most harmed over the preceding decades. Today, that work is underway. The organizations best placed to show the impact on the ground are the ones we are privileged to support through this fund. While we'll only hear from 3 of them now, we're extremely proud to support all 50. You can read about these incredible organizations and the details of their work in the award book published today and available in the back of the room. First, we will hear from Krista Lee Romero-Smith, a program director at Community Connections for Youth. Community Connections for Youth will implement Poder, Youth Leadership Collective, a 9-month academy empowering justice-involved South Bronx youth with mentoring, restorative practices, career exploration, and peer leadership to cut recidivism and launch education and employment pathways. After that, we'll hear from Elvis Torres, Executive Director of Housing Services at the Neighborhood Association for Intercultural Affairs. NICA is launching the Eviction Prevention and Housing Stability Initiative to provide targeted rental assistance, legal defense, and wraparound supports to stop evictions and stabilize 150 Bronx and Queens families living with children and young adults. And finally, we will hear from Mino Laura, Executive Artistic Director and co-founder of the People's Theater. The People's Theater will use this funding to expand its Academy for Leadership, Theater, and Advocacy. They will be adding mental health first aid, anti-racism training for teaching artists, and bilingual case management to support 75 immigrant youth in Washington Heights and Inwood to heal, create, and learn. I want to thank all of our partners. I want to thank all of the awardees and everyone here for making this reinvestment possible. Thank you so much. And now, Lili.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day in the Bronx. We outside, isn't it? I'm so excited to be here. Good morning, everyone. In spirit of cannabis, they tried to bury me and they forgot we were seeds. Thank you to the Office in Cannabis Management, the Cannabis Advisory Board, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, and all the partners and honorees here today for this opportunity. I'm honored to be here as someone who was one system impacted as a young person and alumni of Community Connections for Youth, and now proudly serving as the program director. Woo! Being a part of this program transformed my life, and now I have the privilege of guiding the next generation of youth on their own journeys. As a girl from the Bronx, yay! I'm so happy we're in the Bronx celebrating today. I found my voice through programs like CCFY, spaces designed so I could see myself, especially the best version of myself. These programs showed me that living in my truth and my power wasn't just possible, it was essential. That same energy and that same belief in possibility is what I want to pour into youth we serve today. Throughout my career and personal growth, it wasn't just me. It was the people who stood beside me, who supported me through the moments of grief, sadness, and joy. That helped me reach my highest potential. Community gave me the courage to seek my own revolution, and now I get to help the young people do the same, discover their power, their voice, and their ability to shape the world around them. CCFY gave me more than just programs. It gave me mentorship, guidance, and a space where voice mattered. It's where I learned my experiences, even the hardest ones, could be transformed into leadership, purpose, and opportunity. I've seen the same transformation happen for countless of youth who once felt unseen, unheard, and limited by their circumstances. Through mentorship and support, they gain confidence, skills, and hope for a future they may not have imagined. The ripple effect of growth and empowerment is what makes CCFY so powerful. As a mom, this work is so deeply personal. The investments we make in our youth don't just impact the young people we serve, they shape the world my child will grow up in. Supporting families and fostering strong communities and creating opportunities for young people to thrive is how I ensure that my child and every child in our neighborhoods grow up surrounded by care, guidance, and possibility. With this funding from the Office of Cannabis Management, CCFY is proud to launch the Poder Youth Leadership Collective. Poder means power in Spanish, and is all about unleashing the incredible potential of injustice-impacted youth. Too often, these young people are labeled as the problem, but I see them as visionaries, leaders, creators, full of ideas, energy, and the ability to transform their communities. Poder's mission is simple, but very powerful: to prepare young people to enter the workforce with confidence, develop leadership through civic engagement, receive meaningful mentorship opportunities, reduce recidivism, and learn the tools of community advocacy. In this program, youth won't just talk about change, they'll lead it. Building strong leadership paths for youth isn't just about programs. It's about equipping them with tools, confidence, and opportunities to shape their own futures. And when young people thrive, our communities thrive, becoming stronger, more connected, and full of hope for generations to come. Now, I'm living proof that investing in youth works. From alumni to program director, my journey shows that what's possible when guidance and care and opportunity come together. Thanks to this funding, more young people will have the chance that I had to learn, to grow, and to lead. And as a mom, I'm proud that this work helps us build the stronger, supportive community my children and all children deserve. Together, we are creating a stronger, brighter future for the Bronx and beyond. For these are all my children, and we will profit by or pay for what they become. James Baldwin. Thank you, y'all.
That's a tough act to follow. Good morning, everyone. I'm Elvis Torres, Executive Director of Housing Services at NICA. First, I wanted to thank the Office of Cannabis Management, the Cannabis Advisory Board, and all of our partners for this amazing and historic opportunity. I will say, similar to her story, over 30 years ago, my mom was a client of NICA's. She was assisted with housing services. She later became an employee of NICA and basically led me to where I'm at today to become an employee at NICA. I started over 25 years ago as a housing specialist, and I'm proud to say that today I'm the Executive Director of Housing Services. And born and raised in the Bronx. And I've never left. Yankee fan through and through. So it's been a tough week. NICA will use this award to enhance our current rental assistance and eviction prevention programs. This program will provide direct support to families at risk of eviction, helping them remain in their homes. It will prevent displacement and stabilize households, giving families the chance to stay rooted in their communities while they work toward long-term housing security. The impact on participants cannot be overstated. For many, rental assistance is the difference between having a roof overhead or falling into homelessness. It allows parents to focus on providing for their children. It gives tenants breathing room to recover from setbacks, rebuild financial stability, and preserve dignity. But this moment is about more than just housing. The Community Grant Reinvestment Fund is about repairing harm. For decades, communities like ours in the Bronx carried the heavy burden of the war on drugs. Disinvestment, over-criminalization, and loss of opportunity. Today, this fund brings resources back into those same neighborhoods, investing in the people and families who are most affected. By supporting housing stability, this initiative doesn't just prevent eviction. It restores hope, strengthens neighborhoods, and helps restore dignity, opportunity, and equity to the communities that deserve it. At NICA, we believe housing is a human right. Thank you to the Community Grants Reinvestment Fund and to everyone that worked on this initiative to make this vision possible. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, buenos dias. My name is Mino Lora, and I am short. And also the Executive Artistic Director for the People's Theater, El Teatro del Pueblo. I am very grateful to be here, and I am very grateful that the People's Theater was one of the 50 organizations across the state to be granted. Thank you to the Office of Cannabis Management. Thank you for the Advisory Council. Thank you to my Borough President, Vanessa, Gibson, for the support. So at the People's Theater, we are a theater organization. Why are we here, you would ask? But we are a theater organization that believes that theater is a tool for justice. It's a tool for healing and a tool for care. We empower our community through the arts, and we believe in the power of young people. Right now, in our Academy for Theater, Leadership, and Advocacy, 2 of my colleagues are here. Our youth and family advocate, our education associate, are working with 172 young people and their families. Very important to say, and their families. When we began and I co-founded this organization 17 years ago, it was me and 6 kids at a rec center in Washington Heights, and we are now serving 170 kids, 35% of them from the Bronx. The rest from Harlem, Washington Heights, and Inwood. And when we see we are working with these families, and specifically immigrant families, we are a spectrum and we are all of the things, and we have a lot of needs. We have a lot of stories to tell, but also a lot of needs to be met. So when it was just me and 5 kids, I would be the one translating in the housing court. And I would be the one connecting to resources at NIMIC or at Cloth and food insecurity and housing insecurity. But when it's 170 kids, I can't do it all. And it's been amazing to have brought on and expanded our team. And with these funds, we now have, and we already started. She's been here 4 weeks, and we have a youth services coordinator. And we are going and supporting our families who are new mothers, who are working multiple jobs, going to the Buy Nothing group and connecting to getting the diapers that they need, and going to housing court and connecting them to veteran services. All of the things that our families just need access to, we are able to be there because they trust their children in our free after-school programs and in the apprentices that they give us, because through that trust, then they're able to open up, connect them to the mental health services that they need, the food services that they need, the housing support, the immigration support. And so many of the young people, many who 16 years ago were my students and are amazing and powerful dreamers, work with us and teach for us and are the mentors. And we have seen, I'm so glad that this funding exists and it is bending towards justice, because we were close to losing some kids to this fight many years ago, and to the gangs and to the initiations, but theater brought them back, community brought them back, and these funds, thank you, and the work that every single organization across the state is doing, I know will have an impact beyond this 1 year or the end of this grant cycle, because we are here to stay, no nos vamos, aquí estamos, and we are so grateful to have the support and to be in community with all of you. Gracias. Thank you.
Let's give it up for our awardees. Congratulations. Thank you to Acting Executive Director Reed, Chairman Bellick, Bronx Borough President Gibson, all of our awardees and partners. Today's announcement reminds us that when we invest in our communities, we are investing in a stronger, more equitable New York. Congratulations again to all awardees, and thank you so much for joining us today to celebrate this historic moment in the Bronx. That does conclude our programming. I'm going to ask that our awardees and our speakers stay at the front for pictures. Press, if you can remain in the back, we will send our speakers and awardees back there with you to speak, take pics, and to interview. Thank you, everyone, and get home safe.